Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Wigan Fan TV. If you caught the first 4 seconds of that, Hugh Edwards hasn't announced that the Queen's dead. That's a completely different story. I just realised that I pressed start broadcast a little bit too early then. Welcome, everybody. Another quiet week at Wigan following a victory. We like these quiet weeks. Let's get straight into it then. Matt, Gabriel Hamlin, give me your reaction. This is obviously going to take up quite a bit of the show tonight, but your initial reaction to Gabe?
It's close to heartbreaking, isn't it? Again, another week, another crisis, and we don't actually know what's gone on, do we? And
no,
we've got to remember that. But I just get these visions of him naked in a bathtub of cocaine, eating it all up with a big spoon and laughing at Wigan as he does it, and so that's just my emotional reaction to it. I don't think that's what happened, okay? So that is not the news. That is pretty much almost definitely not what happened. But I just feel so sad, angry. I came over a little bit Brian Carney at one point, so to speak. It's all too much for me, is what I'm saying.
Where does your anger... You said that you feel angry. Are you angry at Gabe Hamlin? Are you angry at the club? But we'll get into the details of what the club said and Randlinsky said today. But are you angry at Hamlin? I mean, this is a 22-year-old. Is he a person that ultimately has to take responsibility for that? Or is he somebody that has been let down by the club, do you think?
Like you said, I don't know the circumstances.
Yeah.
You know, yeah. And we don't know what kind of drugs are involved. And so at the moment,
does that make a difference?
Well, yeah, if it's performance enhancing drugs that the club has injected into him when he's not watching, then my anger is directed purely at the club. If it's a bathtub incident, then it's him. But then, I mean, he's a kid. He's 22 years old. My anger is just general anger at the world at the moment. I'm a very forgiving person, and I'll come around. At the moment, I just feel let down.
David, your initial reaction to Gabe Hamlin being banned at the moment by UK anti-doping on his way to Australia, or in Australia now as well?
Yeah, it was one of those. You see a tweet from Wigan Warriors, and then you see a club statement, and you think, oh God, what now? As you said, we're only speculating at the moment. He's violated one of the rules, but we're not entirely sure what that rule is at the moment, and the club aren't. But you've got to think, especially with all this furore around Hardacre and his ban, and obviously him coming in, he might be a kid, but you've got to take responsibility. It's not like he's been, it's not like it's something that's come out of the blue. It's something that we're aware of, and it's big news in rugby league and has been for a few years now. So yeah, it's disappointing more than anything else, because he's been one of our, most promising players in the last sort of 12, 18 months. He's really, become a fan favourite. So it's just disappointing is the overriding feeling.
So obviously the news today was Chris Randlinsky's obviously been pretty much firefighting, hasn't he? I don't think he could ignore it for any longer than perhaps he did do. I mean, Brian Carney, I'm sure we've all seen Brian Carney's reaction on Sky Sports News, which I think was an emotive reaction that I think most fans wanted and needed to see and would have liked to have seen from somebody involved in the club. But understandably, you can't really do that. If Chris Randlinsky can't come out and say what Brian Carney said on Sky Sports News, as much as he perhaps wants to say that. But what Chris Randlinsky did come out and say today is that he believes in the culture at Wigan. He believes it to be a strong culture. Now, off air, we've tried to have this sort of conversation of what is Wigan's culture at this moment in time, and we sort of made a list between us earlier today of things that have, or I tried to make a list of things that have happened since Michael Maguire left. I tried to put it into Ian Lenigan's era, but in reality, all of this has happened post Michael Maguire. So you've got, I think, as Gareth said when we were talking previously, we can't really talk about the Ben Flower thing because it was on field, but he got a 6-month suspension. This is not in order, by the way. The Haydock race incident where Bateman was banned and Mossop moved on at the end of the season. We stood by Bateman, but we gave him a pretty lengthy sort of internal ban, didn't we? We had the Tompkins brothers incident where Joel resigned from the club and Sam was heavily fined. We had Zach Hardacre, who we signed whilst banned for taking cocaine during competition, and then Wigan pay for the appeal, get it reduced, signing. We've then got Hardacre drink driving before he's even played a game. We've got Craig Mullen drink driving last week. We've got Gabe Hamlin now banned by UK anti-doping. We've got Reece Pugsley, who Mark remembered, who was an academy player who got banned for 2 years whilst at Wigan over the past, 5 years ago. We've got Sean Edwards, not signed a contract but unveiled as Wigan's head coach. And then we've got the salary cap breach. And I've probably not covered everything. So what, if Wigan's culture is strong, Matt, what is Wigan's culture? It's a mess.
Well, when you put it like that, it does sound a bit messy, yeah.
That's since 2011. So that's,
2011.
That's 8 years, really, isn't it? Not quite 8 years, 8 seasons, and all of that has happened.
That's only half of what I've done since 2011.
And do you know what? That's probably only half that's the only stuff that we know about as well.
Yeah, true. And you've got to put into perspective. There are a lot of people at that club who haven't put a foot wrong, as far as we know. So to talk about one club's culture and to say there is something drastically wrong, I think is probably stretching it a bit. Maybe this is why we need a coach like Sean Edwards.
What, somebody that doesn't want to be here? I'm putting him in as the... I mean, yeah, we want somebody that can't deal with it. Right. Who is responsible for this then? Who is responsible for the culture at Wigan?
Well, that would be Lanigan and Radlinski.
Okay, all right, David. Who's responsible for
the players? It's the players. They're not kids. They're not. There's. You mentioned Michael Maguire, and certainly Michael Maguire made a huge difference to the culture that was at Wigan at the time. Post Millward and in that era, and there was a definite negative culture back then. But I don't think you can blame the hierarchy because, Sean Wayne's probably one of the toughest taskmasters you'll get, and some of these incidents have happened under his watch. You can't really look at that. They're adults, they're grown men. They should, yes, they work hard and yes, they train hard, but they should be. Well, it's not that they should be role models, but they are role models. I don't think people should be sort of singled out as role models because you've got kids and the parents are the role models ultimately. But these are grown men making decisions. They're in, horrendous decisions half the time. You can't, what's Lanigan and Radlinski meant to do? Go out with them every time they go anywhere. Like Radlinski said, they have a culture that's there 8 till 4, but those players should be driving those standards. That's what we get told, that the players drive the standards on the field. So why are they not driving it off the field? We've got some really experienced, good guys, as Matt said. There's a lot of players in that squad that have not put a foot wrong, that have kept out the headlines.
Right. So
maybe what we need is you might have put your finger on it there. This kind of whole 8 o'clock till 4 o'clock. If they all live together like the Brady Bunch, then that might solve the problem.
Okay. Well, that is an option. We don't even own our own stadium, but we're on about buying a big mansion for everybody to live in. It's obviously an option. I want to know from people that are watching as well, who ultimately do we think is responsible for this? So, Matt, are you saying that this falls purely at Lanigan and Radlinski's feet?
Or
wherever you want to land it.
And you talk about the hierarchy. The hierarchy is everybody from top to bottom, and everybody has to take some responsibility. But the people who are steering the culture, the people who are responsible in kind of the direction of the club, are Radlinski and Lanigan, and they take more responsibility than anybody else.
Okay, so there's a lot of people, and David's touched on it here, saying it's the players that are ultimately responsible. Is it senior players that are responsible in this regard? Are the senior players and the leadership team, however you want to brand it, naming names, Sean O'Loughlin, Thomas Luluai, Tony Clubb, Liam Farrell, are they failing their teammates by not setting the example? They've not done anything wrong as far as we know. It's other people. But is the culture, does it need to come from there? Now, I've Sean O'Loughlin's going to go down as certainly one of the greatest Super League era players that we're going to have ever had. You know, I'm not criticising him at that level, but think back to when Sean O'Loughlin came into the side in the early 2000s, when he was made captain. When was it? 2004, 2005, after Andy Farrell left. He lacked leadership on that pitch at that time because he was so young. Are we convinced that Sean O'Loughlin is as good a leader off the pitch or on the pitch as we think he is in this bubble? Is it the senior players that need to sort this mess out? David, I know we've talked about the players, but do you think this relates to the senior players in the squad?
No, I don't think it does. Like I say, Sean O'Loughlin's been there or thereabouts now, 15 years or so. As captain, I don't think you can. There's certain things they drive the standards in training, etc. But again, I don't think the senior players, maybe they need to be more open. But if they don't know what's going on, if they're not seeing this behind the scenes, because the Sean O'Loughlin, Tommy Lulai are people with families and things like that. The incidents tend to be with players that are single without kids. A lot of the time, There's not really any of these incidents happen that people that have been settled in healthy relationships with children about. So again,
so marry them all off.
Why not?
That is the solution: arranged marriage.
But yeah, the senior players can only be responsible for what they're aware of if they're aware of that culture and that underlying. If they don't see that Craig Mullen's going out and having a drink, or if they don't see that Gabe Hamlin's, I don't think Gabe Hamlin would be quite open and say to the players if he's taken anything. I just don't think that would be the done thing, because I think if he did, then they'd say something.
I mean, I think I think
you're responsible for your own actions. Whatever presents itself to you, you're ultimately responsible, and your actions shouldn't be a reflection on anybody else.
Getting a bit of stick for blaming Lockers. I'm not trying to blame Lockers here. The point that I'm trying to sort of
I heard you blame Lockers.
Yeah, I did. The point that I'm trying to make very badly is I think the disproportion that we have between the senior players and the young players. I do think we have some very senior players that are in the 30s now, and we have a lot of very, very young players. And we're almost getting to that stage where when O'Loughlin and Lulai retire at the end of the year, which they're surely going to do, is who's stepping into that void? Who we would creating as these senior players. George Williams falls into that category, but he's not going to be here next year. We could go on and go on and go on. I know that, and I don't think the three of us and anybody that's watching is going to find a solution to what the issue is. But we're going to try. Matt, how do you solve a problem like Wigan at this moment in time? How do the club move forward as fans? Okay. What do we want to see from the club?
This is what the club do. All those incidents that you've just raised, going back those 8 years, what the club do is they take the repeat offenders, the ones who've done it again and again and again, and they take those out of the equation, get those repeat offenders out of the club.
And you think that improves the culture?
Well,
even though we're saying,
how many of them are repeat offenders?
Do we give them the opportunity to be repeat offenders, though?
Yes, everybody needs a second chance. Punishments have to happen, right? But for a culture to work, people need to feel secure and safe and a bit looked after, and everybody needs a second chance. And I don't think we've seen that many repeat offenders. I think we've seen people make mistakes, and when need be, people have been moved, partly out of the club, partly for their own good, partly because it's helpful for them, and we know there are players that's happened to, and I don't see any kind of issue with people doing the same thing again and again and again. What we're seeing is sporadic individual incidents that are being dealt with as best a rugby club can. Okay,
David, as a Wigan fan, we've obviously been a little bit disillusioned about what's gone on off the pitch. The thing that's really easy to forget in all of this is we're current champions, and we should be perhaps enjoying that. But rather than sort of rolling into Cass at the weekend on Friday night, being the arrival of the champions, it's more like the circus is in town, because you know that there's a circus following Wigan at this moment in time. That is unfortunate, the situation that we're in as a club. What, as a fan, do you want to see moving forward? How do you want to see the club change moving forward? As a genuine question, because this is a question that, I think one of the biggest criticisms that the club has had thrown at it today and over the past few weeks is its communication with fans. Yeah. And I think it's been poor. And Mark, who comes onto this show, and myself are a part of the fan engagement board. Well, there's a meeting on Sunday, and without sort of sounding really harsh to the club, it's a box. It's, at this moment in time, the fan engagement board is a box ticking exercise. We've not achieved anything. The one thing that they wanted to achieve was the fan village. Well, that's been put on hold because of the redevelopment of Robin Park. Now, that's not anything against the staff at Wigan for not. They're trying to do stuff, but circumstances make it really difficult. And I think we've got an opportunity as fans, if we can try and influence it. How, in your eyes, how does this change? How do you, as a Wigan fan, want to see the club interact with fans moving forward?
It's that vital thing. It's communication, and Lenigan. I go to the shareholders meetings, and he's quite open and honest in those, and it's kept sort of before those four walls, but. It's the communication. It's just Wigan fans are always the last to know anything. And I know Lenigan doesn't comment on, he's one of these businessmen that doesn't like commenting on speculation.
Or signing contracts.
Or signing contracts. But for me, again, Radlinski's come out today and spoken. Wigan put out the statement that gave us nothing with regards to Sean Edwards, basically saying, yeah, we've seen the speculation and we're trying to get hold of him, and we'll tell you when we've got hold of him. So, there needs to be some strong leadership, and I just feel that at the moment, Lenigan and Radlinski, for all the brilliant stuff they've done for Wigan, and I'm no way critical of them for everything they've done for the club over the last, however many years they've been in situ, but the communication's always let them down, and we need to see that strong leadership. We need to see those people fronting up. Why not? Why can't they come on and do something with Sky Sports News? Sky Sports News will jump at the chance of speaking to them. To come out and just be open and honest. You can't criticise anybody if they're open and honest, whether you like what they're saying or not. If they're honest with you, then fair play. You can sort of take that. But it's the cloak and dagger. It's the not knowing. It's the not communicating. Everything seems to be the press get older. It gets leaked in the social media. Somebody who knows somebody else tells you something, and then after all the damage has been done, then Wigan come along and put out a statement, and it's just every week at the moment, isn't it? As a matter of states like what this time.
Yeah, we had the Craig Mullen incident after the Salford win, which took the shine off that. We've had a fantastic win against Catalans, and then, we should be previewing the Castleford game right now, really, and instead we're talking about another off-field incident. Stephen's put an interesting point on there, and I think, we'll draw a line on this after this point, but I think this is part of it as well, is, Bateman and Hardacre did, they got punished, but ultimately we kept them at the club because of the talent. I think that with Bateman, we don't know exactly what happened at Haydock races. I'm sure many people do, but there's a reason why Bateman stayed at the club and Mossop went on. It's his talent ultimately at that stage. And I think Joel. You're shaking your head, David. You don't agree?
No, I don't agree.
Well, you're wrong. We're moving on. I'm joking. Go on.
No, I was just going to say, the punishment in comparison to Joel. Don't forget, Bateman served quite a lengthy internal ban.
Yeah,
pretty much unheard of. I've not seen, there've been other players at other clubs that have had misdemeanors and good.
Yeah, I'm with you, Matt. I can't hear what he's saying.
I thought it was just me.
No, it was obviously a really, really good. Yeah, it was a good point, that, David. I think you're right. We couldn't hear a word you were saying then. I think you were sort of stuttering through that from that. But let's draw a line as much as we can on the. I'm sure next week we'll have another off-field issue to contemplate. Let's everybody that's putting comments in. I think the question that I'd like to see answered in the comments is, how do as a club, how would you like to see the club move forward? And then, we, like I said, there's the opportunity of the fan engagement board on Sunday to put that forward to the club. And I know the comments are going to go to Chris Radlinski and then be fed to Ian Lenigan. So, they genuinely are. So I think, please take that opportunity. I think David's typing away there. Please take that opportunity to put how this wants to be addressed. And I think fans forums will come up in the comments again. I think that's something that people genuinely sort of enjoyed in the early days. But I think from the club's point of view, they got a little bit derailed as is I always remember watching one on Wigan TV, and the guy was asking the question as to why we don't have a left-footed kicker kicking to the right touch and a right-footed kicker kicking to the left touchline, because we'd gain an extra few metres, and over the season that would equate to so many points. And I think at that point, Ian Lenigan decided enough's enough on the fans forums. But it might be time to bring those back in. Who knows? Let's focus on something a little bit more positive. Matt, your thoughts on Wigan's quite extraordinary performance, really, wasn't it, on Sunday, particularly in that second half? I mean, Wigan are back as a team on the field, aren't they?
Yeah, it was joyous to watch. And I had quite a difficult drive getting there. And I think I missed the first 3 or 4 minutes of the game. And I remember walking up, taking my seat, and just for the first 5-10 minutes thinking, oh, God, it's more of this again. But gradually, as the game went on and Wigan kind of ground away into that Catalan team, it just became, I was elated. I smiled all the way home, and that was a 3-hour trip. It was just wonderful.
David, what's changed for Wigan over the past 2 weeks? I mean, let's not get ahead of ourselves. We've got, we've just won 2-2, but it was a good performance. What pleased you the most about Sunday? What's clicking for Wigan now?
I think nilling was a big plus. Yeah. Keeping Catalans to nil. I think as well. I think I alluded to it last week when I was on with Mark. Just the change in Williams when Burgess is there. There's something about that trio in particular of Williams, Gildart and Burgess that seems to give Williams a bit more confidence. I think he knows that some of the stuff that he's going to do is going to come off, because Burgess almost seems to know where the ball's going to be kicked to, or it's just bizarre to witness. And you just hope that Canberra don't want to come in for Burgess as well next season if they see how effective he is. But that attacking, that the golden edge, as we sort of term it, it was, pretty much everything went down that side. But having said that, the hard yards, Sargentson, Isa and Manfredi were making the hard yards on the other side, and it just seemed to be, the right-hand side were getting all the sort of, doing all the hard graft, and then the left-hand side, I mean, Gildart's stats were phenomenal, the metres he made. So that was good to see that back in action, and hopefully that'll improve even further with Greenwood back in the side this week.
Matt, we obviously blooded quite a few youngsters. Morgan Smithies making his debut, who we briefly, I think me and David briefly spoke about last week, just as sort of a throwaway topic. They hadn't announced the 19-man squad at that point, weren't expecting him to be in the 19-man squad, gets into the 17-man squad, impresses by all accounts Ollie Partington and Liam Paisley, who I think is very unlucky not to be in the 19-man squad this week. He made a brilliant run, didn't he? Sort of Liam Farrell-esque run off George Williams to set up one of the Burgess tries. How impressed were you with the youngsters stepping up against a massive Catalans pack? I mean, on paper, even on the pitch, Cassiano and Sam Moore and Greg Bird, these were young lads that were dealing with them. How impressed were you with the likes of Partington and Smithies?
Very impressed. And I kept thinking, when's this going to end? At some point, Catalan are going to make another substitution, bring one of their forwards on or back on, and that's when we're going to be exposed. But it didn't happen. They stuck to them. And that bodes so well for the future. The fact that we've got these young players who can stand up to players like that, it was great. And I'll tell you what else I really liked. We still had the pattern and using the kind of the left side and all the flair down there, but we saw some really, really good individual play too. Yeah. Players making moments for themselves in the game, and that was really exciting. And I think it felt like I hadn't seen that in a long while.
We saw the first try, didn't we, from Zach Hardacre and Jared Samet. David, do you think Carroll's put on this? The point that I was going to make is we're starting to, and we mentioned it last week, all of a sudden we're starting to see a bit of consistency in the team selection, which has perhaps come from injuries more than anything, particularly with Sam Powell. I think that's given an opportunity, hasn't it? We've got rid of I don't think we've had one single comment tonight asking for Morgan Escaré in the team. The first time all year, everybody's forgotten about Morgan Escaré all of a sudden. The first few shows on here was all about get Morgan Escaré into the side. Jared Samet's coming up quite a lot in that. Do you think we're getting the combinations right now? We're getting the consistency, and Adrian Lamb knows his team.
I think Carroll's right in that it is consistency in getting to. Don't forget some of these players like Samet and Hardacre in key positions. They're not familiar with Wigan structure and style of play. So there's that element to it. The other thing I was going to mention was about Samet and his kicking game. We were taking the mickey out of Sam, calling him catch and pass, but the kicks, so many of the kicks went over him, and we were turning the Catalan back three around time and time again. We were just finding space with the kicks, which I think that was crucial, because Sam obviously would inevitably catch the ball and pass it straight to a winger for them to make some yards. But yes, I think the combinations and not having Powell there, Samet's doing really well. I've been really impressed. Hardacre, I'm a big Escaré fan, but Hardacre's solid in defence, and now he's starting to get into the attacking, chiming into the line and making a bit more influence to attack. Defensively, he's probably one of the best in Super League.
Martin puts on the comment here, tactics were superb, kicked them to death in the first hour. I can't remember a Super League team so out on their feet as Catalans were in that last 20 minutes. Matt, does Adrian Lamb need to take a lot of credit for the past 2 weeks? He's somebody that's taken a lot of criticism. He's not had the best of starts to his coaching career at Wigan, but are we finally starting to see the form and the expectation that goes with Adrian Lamb's name, I guess, and the expectation of Wigan fans? Is Adrian Lamb perhaps not getting the credit he deserves for the past couple of weeks?
I hope so. And to be honest, I could never really understand the criticism, because I think, coming into a club like Wigan that's had that much in the way of personnel change on and off the field, it was never going to be an easy task for him. And he said himself, didn't he? He said that we won't, we're not going to be judged by the first few games. It's going to take longer than that.
6 to 8 weeks, didn't he? And he's pretty much been, true to his word.
And it's all coming good.
David, the sort of one player that gets a lot of criticism and is out of the team at the moment is Sam Powell. Thomas Luluai and Jake Shorrocks as the dummy half seems to be working quite well. Jake Shorrocks keeps having an impact, doesn't he? The last 3 games he's played, he's had a positive impact. Has Jake Shorrocks now found himself a sort of a permanent position on that bench for the time being, do you think, or is it a case that when Sam Powell comes back, he goes straight into the team? I don't think that'll be a very popular decision at this moment.
No, I don't think that'd be the right message to send out from Lam if you brought him straight back into the team. I think there's still room for Powell. Don't forget that season when we sort of won the grand final in 2016, and when he was without McIlroy, he was absolutely outstanding. He tackled everything that moved, and he found his role as a hooker rather than a halfback. But as you said, at the minute, Jake Shorrocks is impressing and showing the form that we knew he was capable of, and hopefully, like I said, the injuries are past him because he can make a difference. And it's just about having options. For me, it's too much of a like for like if you've got Luluai and Powell, you're sort of interchanging hooking. They don't offer that much different to one another. Whereas when you've got the likes of Jake Shorrocks that can come in and chime in, and they make the defences think, don't they?
Go on, Matt. Your thoughts on the hooking role, really? Luluai, Shorrocks, Powell, Ganson, the forgotten man at Wigan. Are you liking what you're seeing from Luluai in particular Shorrocks?
I am, yeah. And I like Powell. And I think, we've got 3 interchangeable hookers there who, when more inevitable injuries, suspensions, drugs bans, whatever happens, we're probably going to need those 3 hookers. I mean, has it occurred to you that maybe we've done some kind of deal with the devil where we're going to be allowed to win a game, providing they sacrifice one of their players in the following week to some kind of scandal? But if we beat Castleford on Friday night, and then on Tuesday it's announced that, I don't know, Sean O'Loughlin is involved in human trafficking, that would not surprise me. That would make me think, yeah, that's what's going on.
It would be consistent, at least. Probably be the most consistent that we've been all year. Right, let's look ahead to Castleford. Talking about the number 9 role, the hooking role, they're missing their playmaker this week, Paul McShane, who's been arguably Castleford's best player so far this season. You look at the Castleford side, you look at it on paper, there's no superstar, and I say this in sort of the kindest possible way as I can do, is they don't have any superstars other than Luke Gale, who's out injured, Paul McShane, who's been the best player this year, but they're a very, very, very good side, and they've got players that are playing very, very well as a team. And obviously they were very unlucky on whenever it was Friday night against Leeds with that drop goal. David, where do you see this game being won and lost? Obviously the Jungle, Weldon Road, whatever it's called, the Ferret Pit. Ferrets. If you buy a ticket, you're allowed to take a ferret in. Where do you see this being? It's a difficult place to play, isn't it? But where do Wigan win this game on Friday?
Two places really. I think you mentioned McShane's a huge loss for them. A huge loss. He's been one of their standout players for quite some time. But I think if you look at their right side as well, I think in the last few games I might be mistaken, but I think they've got Greg Minikin and James Clare possibly. They've been playing on the right edge, and obviously with Wigan and with Greenwood coming back, I think it's that edge is going to ultimately be the difference. But yeah, I think McShane makes them tick, and I'm more confident than I have been for quite some weeks about this week.
Matt, you were looking like you were being bitten by a ferret when I was talking about the ferret. Not a fan of ferrets at rugby games?
No, I generally leave mine at home.
Okay.
No matter how much they plead. I think for once, the Castleford pitch is going to suit us on Friday, because we know now that if Greenwood is tackled anywhere near the halfway line, all he's got to do is stretch over, and that's a try, isn't it? So that's going to work in our favour.
Craig says, can't underestimate Cass at home. Foster and Matt's been playing well. Can't take anything for granted. I mean, it's a horrible place to go to in every single aspect, except Watts even rather than Matt's. It's a horrible place to go to, really. Castleford is a place. But yeah, it's a very difficult place to win, isn't it, for Wigan? You talk about that left edge, David, as being perhaps Wigan's best opportunity. Matt, the pitch might playing. How important do you think Sammett's kicking game is going to be on Friday night, David, for Wigan on a smaller, tighter pitch, but building on Sunday's result really, and how well he did there?
Yeah, that's one thing that I was looking forward to when we signed him. I know we got a bit of stick from signing Championship players, replacing. But his kicking game's always been consistently good, and a smaller pitch, and it's going to be crucial if he gets the angles right, if he gets that dimensions right, and puts the ball as he has been doing the last few weeks. Not just attacking kicks, like I said, but the ones that clear the air and get us some momentum up the field. So, I'm looking forward to it.
Matt, your score prediction for Friday night?
Wigan 25, Castleford 18.
And who's getting that drop goal by any chance?
Obviously, it's going to be Hardacre.
Okay, obviously, yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting one. David, your thoughts on your score prediction? We'll talk about Hardacre, actually, in just a second.
Score prediction, 24-10.
Hardacre obviously returning to Castleford for the first time since he decided that he didn't want to play in the grand final for them. Matt, do you think he's the kind of player that will thrive under that kind of hostile atmosphere, or is he the kind of person that will let it get to his head and bother him?
I think he's going to love it.
Yeah, absolutely.
David, we've missed a comment here from Stu. After the game last week, you wanted to come onto the show because you had a monologue prepared about the refereeing performance on Sunday.
Jeez, reminding me. It's been forgotten, hasn't it, and all the missed.
Yeah, we've completely forgot. I mean, what was your issue with James Charles on there?
So I don't like bagging referees for one, because they have a tough enough job as it is, and I wouldn't do it for love nor money. But I can abide referees. I can deal with referees that are just purely incompetent if they're just crap. I honestly don't mind if they're crap, because that's forgivable. But if someone's crap, then they'll miss an offside for one team and miss an offside for the other. James Child consistently winds me up because he will let teams get away with something. Then the second Wigan do that exact same infringement, he pulls us for it, whether that be offside, messing at the play of the ball. He missed a shoulder charge, I'm sure, at the weekend. And there used to be a thing, Child in charge. I'm not being funny, Sean. I think Lydia could do a better job than him half the time. Rant over.
I mean, we won, David.
We won, but not because of him, in spite of him.
Okay, so that was the rant that's been a week in the making. God help us if we lose by a refereeing decision next week. Then
it's all right as long as it's not James Child.
Spencer says Wigan by golden point, power storms across the pitch and smashes his fist through a pile of bricks. Sorry, Matt, go on.
So, every team's supporters in the league say exactly that about Child. We all say it, but if everyone thinks that, he must be getting it right somewhere. He must be somehow balancing it.
No.
David is the person that keeps the League Express and the League Weekly going with his letters at the back. He just uses different names every single time. I've seen you. Those letters are penned by you. We know you actually get paid by them as well. Apparently,
on the payroll.
Chris Kendall's the ref, and James Charles a video ref. Brilliant.
See,
we know
thanks, Joe.
we know what we're going to
made me day.
We know what we're going to be talking about.
Can we quote you on that?
Matt, obviously, this is your first time back on the show in about 4 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks.
Has it been that long?
Yeah, it's been a long time. Yeah, and you've stopped doing your raps. I mean, have you got anything for us, or are we just going to put this on screen saying Macaulay's Moment, sponsored by All Seasons Gardening, their report, and you're just going to say no?
What I've got is I'm very much aware that we're trying to pick up new supporters. And a lot of those new supporters, all of the ones that are now attending Wigan, they might not have gone to Castleford before. So I thought I'd just give them a few details about what to expect at Castleford. So if you're going on Friday to your first ever Castleford away game, do enjoy the experience as best you can. Castleford, coached by Dower Powell, that they play at the Menderhose Jungle. Now, in Castleford, Menderhose Jungle probably sounds quite exotic, but to me, it just sounds like a plumber's wife downstairs area. And that is exactly the ambience that you get from the place, especially anywhere downwind of the urinals. And you've got to make the choice when you get there, whether you're going to stand on the terraces or sit in the stand. It's one of those rare rugby league grounds where sitting in the stand is actually more painful than standing on the terraces. If you do opt for the stand, you can fully expect to encounter sudden onset arthritis, ricket and splinters, who are Castleford's new mascots. At half time, the Castleford crowd, they'll be howling with laughter at the antics of those mascots as their sudden onset arthritis tries desperately to pull splinters out of his backside, while Ricketts goes around making everyone bandy. And they love that sort of thing because they're easily pleased at Castleford, which is just as well, considering their record in big games. They are pretty much unplayable on their own pitch. We say pitch. I mean, it's a well-endowed allotment, really, isn't it? And what we can expect from the Castleford team is this. We can expect fast, expansive rugby. They'll hit hard, and that's all good. They'll also slow down to play the ball. They'll rush in from offside. They'll throw forward passes, and Liam Watts will try to murder someone at some point. and when all that happens, all of that they will try to blame Wigan for every single bit of it. The Castleford fans were going, "Oh, Liam Watts has just stabbed someone. That's Wigan's fault." But you know what? I am sure that the Castleford fans' hatred for Wigan will it'll just drift away and mellow as soon as Zach takes to the pitch. I think that could be a very touching reunion with Liam Watts doing most of the touching. So yeah, if you're going to the game, enjoy the experience. I'm quite glad I'm watching it on TV.
I think the hatred that's generated from Castleford towards Wigan and Leeds actually generates the kind of floodlight that they have at Weldon Road as well. And then the other one is powered by the ferret going around the wheel.
That one is so bright.
Yes. Particularly when they play Leeds or Wigan. David, Matt, thank you so much for taking the time for joining and what has been another eventful week being a Wigan fan. Hopefully we'll just have the win on Friday night, and next week we can just talk about another lovely trip to West Yorkshire for the following week. The tour guide section's working, Matt. I think people are enjoying they're missing the wraps, but they're enjoying that. You did your tour guides of London. That was the last time you were on, I think, wasn't it? Yeah, I think people enjoyed that.
That was ages ago.
Yeah, I mean that was the start of the wobble, or partly through the wobble. But yeah, you've got some fans here now, Matt. People. I see what you're doing. You're boosting your. This is going to be clipped, and then you're going to boost your stand-up career by sort of using this platform.
It's all part of the plan.
Yeah. I'm just going to put all these on the screen, so when you clip it later on, so that's Anthony clapping you. We'll just pretend that Carol's saying just thank you to you. Put Phillips on. That's an acronym. Who knows what that means? There's lots of different things. There you go. That's on your show reel. But David, Matt, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you everybody for your involvement, and we'll see you next week when Wigan will have made it 3 wins in a row, and nobody will have been banned for drink driving, drugs, or being stabbed by Liam Watts, apparently. Thanks, everybody.